Welcome to the Spanish Grand Prix Notebook. Not the most thrilling race in the world, was it? But plenty of action going down throughout the field, and a bit of there's a bit of handbags going on in the Sauber briefing room, because Marcus Ericsson and Felipe Nasr, first of all, Nasr with 12th and Ericsson 14th. And I understand Ericsson feels a little bit miffed that he didn't actually manage to get past or be given the place past, allowed to execute his strategy past Nasr. We saw a little bit of it before the Brazilian pitted in front of him. It's a bit frustrated, Ericsson, we're seeing. But anyway, there was a slow stop also earlier on, which held the Saubers up. But yeah, haven't really developed at all, have Sauber, and have lost out heavily in the development race from their point scoring earlier on in the year. So Sauber, one of the big losers in the development race once we get to Spain, as we kind of knew they would be. A lot of blue flags for the Mana Marushas. 17th for Will Stevens, again finishes ahead of Roberto Merri, his Spanish teammate. So they'll be helping themselves to some biscuits and tea and a nice bag of beef crisps there. But it was a little bit of a frustrating race with a load of blue flags. A particular target for blue flag anger was Kimi Räikkönen, who several times said, "What the bleep are the Marushas doing?" And then again, what the bleep were the Toro Rossos doing, which made for quite amusing listening, but you could tell his frustration. Let's move on to Lotus. I've just checked with Federico Gestaldi. They're just taking the mechanic to hospital for a precautionary check. He's fine, he feels fine. They don't feel that there's anything wrong, any bumps and bruises or breaks, anything like that. I mean, there will be bumps and bruises, surely, but not a good day for them. Oh, in fact, he's back. Oh, that's good. And he's not on a stretcher anymore. He's in a small wheelchair. So there you go. Lee, can you see that the other side of there? He's got a little bandage on his leg. Let's not intrude too much on his embarrassment. But good to see the chap back and in action. But it was an issue with the fourth gear with Romain Grosjean. Sorry, if you didn't hear, Romain Grosjean was 8th, so some good points for them. And Pastor Maldonado didn't finish, as you know, with the problem that he had with the rear wings as well. But blimey, they build strong rear wings at Enstone, don't they? It's quite surprising. But I'll just check with Jeff. Jeff, is he all right? Everything is okay?
Yeah, he's okay, yeah. Just maybe a couple of days off, but we're getting back working quick.
Good. All right, well done. Good to hear. So, yeah, that was unfortunate there. The fourth gear did come back to Romain Grosjean, as we understand it. That's why he was able to finish in 8th position. But anyway, that's frustrating for them. Now, Toro Rosso, you can see, have a look at Franz Tost up there. It looks like he's normally tearing strips off somebody or other. So he does look quite stern, doesn't he? But Carlos Sainz Jr.'s 9th place is currently under threat, because it has been referred to the stewards because of the clash with Kvyat, which won't have pleased anybody at Red Bull Racing. The sister team, or actually the team that's doing better at the moment, collided with Kvyat. But yeah, so there, he's gone to the stewards. So we don't know whether Sainz is actually going to keep his 9th place or not. Verstappen only 1 second off a point. Verstappen was 11th, Carlos Sainz 9th, as I said. Slow first stop for Verstappen, struggled with the pace. Really was very slow on the straight and susceptible to a lot of people passing them. So I think Toro Rosso wanted a bit more after their fantastic starting positions and gained very, very little from that race. Well, they gained 2 points, and those 2 points are under threat. So we will see what happens. Force India, 15th for Nico Hülkenberg on a 3-stop. 13th for Sergio Perez on a 2-stop. So Perez trying his usual trick of trying to max out the tyres, and pretty much worked for him, actually. But Hülkenberg, there is a reason why he was 2 places so far behind Perez. And that's because he was stuck behind Maldonado with all of Maldonado's problems for about 15 laps. And he was losing a second per lap, was Hülkenberg. So Force India felt. And they felt very frustrated about that, and as to why he couldn't actually get past the somewhat lame Lotus. Let's just turn my notebook round while we tell you about McLaren, and probably one of the most disappointing days in McLaren Racing's history, I would have said. You heard what Jenson Button said, I think, that they might not score points all season. Fernando Alonso with his problems with the brake-by-wire and the rear brakes, which meant that the front brakes had to do all the work, and then they failed as well. But ice cool, how ice cool is their front jackman? It's a chap called Lee Hart who's the front jackman here at McLaren, and he's been very, very experienced. He's been doing the front jack certainly for as long as I've known 13 years, I think he's been doing the front jack. So he could tell, he told me during the race, he could tell very, very early that Alonso was never going to stop. So he just decided calmly just to walk away and let the jack take all the hit, which I thought was he's certainly a cool customer, is lethal. So yeah, not really a great. Jenson Button trailed home 16th. But you know all about that. They've got a test here. In fact, everybody has a test here apart from Marussia in the next couple of days. So maybe McLaren can make some headway there. Now, I've been having a look at this, and if Kimi Räikkönen had mirrored, if Sebastian Vettel had mirrored Lewis Hamilton's strategy, he would have stayed ahead of him. But Sebastian Vettel has been talking in the press conference about that missed opportunity, and he said we were stuck in traffic when Lewis came out and set a very quick out lap, so it did hurt us. We might have stayed ahead, but then Mercedes would have got us eventually. But Vettel was saying that we have done a step forward, even if it doesn't show, but it will in Monaco and Canada. All these upgrades that they brought, Vettel says it will show in Monaco and Canada, and he's not happy with the gap to Mercedes, the huge gap to Mercedes, but he is happy with the position, happy to get on the podium again. The three-stop, Vettel said, wasn't our plan today. I thought that was interesting, whether that exposed somewhat of a lack of flexibility in their strategy, but we talked all about that, I guess. The first stop, he said, was an invitation to overtake Lewis Hamilton, which indeed it was. After a problem that Mercedes had on the left-right, they would have really got them eventually, which Mercedes did, of course. Anything else to tell you about Mercedes? About Ferrari, not particularly. Kimi Räikkönen fifth and missing out by just the 0.7 seconds of Valtteri Bottas. So there is a little bit of frustration. Spoke to Dave Greenwood, you might have heard that interview already, Kimi's engineer, and he was saying that felt that really they should have been able to get the Williams at the end. So they were a little bit disappointed at that. But then, you know, it's qualifying, isn't it, for Kimi Räikkönen, make his Sundays so much easier. Let's talk about Ricciardo. There's at Red Bull, there's 7th for Daniel Ricciardo and 10th for Danny Kvyat. Kvyat compromised, obviously, by that clash with the Toro Rosso at the end. A lonely race for Daniel Ricciardo. His lap times were okay, just about, more or less. But Kvyat ended up lapped and lost time. But all the best to Christian Horner, who ties the knot with you-know-who this week, sometime later this week, I think. So he has certainly got a busy week ahead. And that just leaves us with Mercedes, I believe. Done Williams. No, we haven't done Williams. I always miss out Williams. What's wrong with me? Valtteri Bottas 4th on a 2-stop. Felipe Massa 6th on a 3-stop. Good driving, so Rob Smedley said, for Valtteri Bottas. They were always going to do a 3-stop with Bottas, but then realised quite early on that they could actually just shadow keep an eye on what Kimi was doing and shadow him and see whether they could actually make it on a 2, which indeed they did. So great driving for him. Williams believe Monaco is going to be better for them. And Massa's doing the first day of their test. And then Alex Lynn, who won the GP2 race today, is doing the second day of the Williams test. So that's interesting. So good old Alex Lynn, last year's GP3 champion and rising British motorsport star, is going to get a day of his own in the Williams. So that's Williams done. And finally, Ferrari. See you, mate. Yeah, talking rubbish as usual, Marky. Brazil, first win since Brazil for Nico Rosberg. So he is back, I think. Let's see what he can do in Monaco. But Lewis Hamilton looked slightly annoyed in the press conference. Lewis Hamilton 2nd on the 3-stop. A bad start for Lewis Hamilton, a mistake in the pit stop. It all adds up, which was a gift for Ferrari. Wheel spin off the start. We did ask him, actually, whether he was tempted to stay out on that final set of hard tyres. It would have had to do 33 laps, that final set of hard tyres. Which is borderline, but it might have happened. It could have been doing some good defending from Rosberg at the end, but Lewis kind of gave an interesting answer. He said it wouldn't have been good to stay out on those tyres. Now, I don't know whether he meant it wouldn't have been good for the pace of the car or wouldn't have been good to deny team orders who wanted me to come in and pit again. and that would have created an unnecessarily mess with Nico Rosberg. But anyway, we decided, Lewis said, on a 3-stop early on, and we had to carry it on. But just a few things to update you finally, Simon, about what Nico Rosberg was saying in the press conference. It was a perfect weekend. Everything came together, so I'm very happy. We didn't do anything, Rosberg said he didn't do anything different, really, from any other weekends. It's just that it all came together. So he must have been right when he was telling us when it was all going bad for him. He just couldn't get the weekend together. He said he wasn't worried about Lewis Hamilton in the final stint closing on him very quickly because he had a good enough gap, and it was a big step in the right direction for us. Nico Rosberg declaring that they won in the development race, that Mercedes won in the development race with the small developments that they knew were going to work over Ferrari, who brought everything at the car and then wasn't sure which bits worked and which bits didn't. Of course, Kimi Raikkonen not running all of the new bits, whereas Sebastian Vettel was.